Right now, the new Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, is speaking about President Trump's tariffs. Listen to what he just said.
Yesterday marked the latest in President Trump's unprecedented series of U.S. tariffs that are designed to reshape the international trading system. The ambition of these measures is enormous. The effects on the global economy will be monumental. We received confirmation that the latest reciprocal tariffs will not be imposed on Canada. At the same time, President Trump confirmed that the tariffs announced last week against our auto industry will come in, and indeed have come into effect today. So while it's progress that further tariffs were not imposed on Canada yesterday, the President's actions will reverberate here in Canada and across the world. Three different sets of U.S. tariffs remain in place and will continue to pose significant threats to Canadian workers and Canadian businesses. And while they have been imposed under different premises, some things are consistent. They are all unjustified, unwarranted, and in our judgment, misguided. And we are already seeing the consequences. Just last evening, workers from Unifor Local 444, with whom I met last week, learned that their auto assembly plant in Windsor will be shutting down for at least the next 2 weeks. That's 3,600 workers who are now out of work, not by their choice. Workers who now worry how they're going to put food on the table and pay their bills. Today, I'm announcing that the Government of Canada will be responding by matching the U.S. approach, with 25% tariffs on all vehicles imported from the United States that are not compliant with CUSMA, our North American Free Trade Agreement, and on the non-Canadian content of CUSMA-compliant vehicles from the United States as well. Our tariffs, though, unlike the U.S. tariffs, will not affect auto parts because we know the benefits of our integrated production system. And they will also not affect vehicle content from Mexico, who is respecting the CUSMA agreement. And as well, we are developing a framework for auto producers in Canada to get relief from these counter tariffs as long as they maintain their production and investment in our country.
And joining us now, the former Premier of Quebec, Jean Charest. He's also the former Deputy Prime Minister of Canada. Premier, thanks so much for coming in. So what's your reaction to what we just heard from your Prime Minister?
Well, Prime Minister Carney had been very clear, Wolf, that if there were to be tariffs or new tariffs, that Canada would retaliate. I mean, he's always been very, very clear about that. So what I understand, he's announcing today what will be a tit-for-tat on tariffs for autos. And so that was to be expected. The money that will be drawn from those tariffs are going to go to the workers who in Canada who will be affected. And the automotive industry, our expectation is that the automotive industry throughout all of North America, Mexico will have a very big impact.
So what U.S. exports to Canada will be affected, will become more expensive?
Well, he's going to announce that today. I didn't see the last list, so I couldn't really tell you what will be in there. But of course, like everyone else, we're seeking to, and by the way, everyone's aware, we hurt ourselves as we do this. The tariffs hurt us. We do counter tariffs. It hurts us also. We're in the world of very bad choices, and we're looking at products for which there are Canadian substitutes or substitutes from other countries than the United States. So it may be in the agri-food area, but we're going to do everything we can to protect our consumers.
So American farmers are going to be impacted big time because they export a lot of stuff to Canada, but you're saying it's now going to be much more expensive.
And we're one of the biggest clients. And you know, the relationship with Canadian farmers, American farmers, is that we sell potash, which is absolutely essential to the farming community in the United States in the spring and the fall. And we supply 80% of it, Wolf. And we don't get it. We don't understand why the administration puts a 10% tariff on potash that hurts American farmers. I mean, it doesn't make sense to us. Same thing for energy. We live in a global energy market. We supply 60% of all the foreign oil, gas sold to the United States comes from Canada. And we sell it at a discount relative to the rest of the market. And there's a 10% tariff on energy. You produce 13 million barrels a day. You consume 20 million. We sell about 4 or 5 million barrels a day. If the American administration wants lower energy prices, well, why are they putting a tariff on energy?
You just heard the Trump Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick. He was just here with us. He told us that President Trump is, in his words, not going to back off these latest U.S. tariffs. What do you make of what we heard from the Secretary, and what do you see as the path forward right now for Canada and the U.S.?
In the case of Canada, the U.S. and Mexico, what we thought was encouraging news yesterday is that the USMCA, this trade agreement that we have, that President Trump signed in 2018, is maintained. And for us, that's significant because it means that we can give a framework to the economic relationship and avoid what we've been experiencing since the election, day-to-day announcements about tariffs that may or may not happen. By the way, microchips, pharmaceutical products are now on the docket and to come. So the maintenance of the USMCA is a major move for us. It's very important. It's good news. It means, and we will negotiate in good faith, and recognizing that both countries have greatly benefited from our trade relationship, actually. And we live in a world, by the way, let's take autos. We live in a world where no single product is made in one country. It doesn't exist anymore. Whether it's autos or any other product, I mean, that world is gone. So in the automotive industry, parts can go back and forth between the border 5 or 6 times before they're finally assembled in an auto plant. It's so true, Wolf, that I think we calculated probably 50% of what we export to the United States and Canada comes from the United States. Why would you tariff that?
We're seeing markets, not only here in the United States, but around the world, I assume in Canada as well, fall right now in the wake of these latest Trump tariff announcements. How concerned are you that potentially, God forbid, we could all be facing not just a domestic recession, but a global recession?
Well, and when you strip away all the rhetoric and the speeches around all of this, we cannot defy the laws of gravity, too long. And it's pretty simple. Increase cost, increase inflation, increase interest rates, and you're going to get a slowdown in the economy. And we are concerned that there will be a recession. We believe the probability of that is very high, and it not only in the United States but in the world. If the United States go into a recession, so will Canada. And so in that respect, sadly, and all of this was unnecessary. We didn't have to go there. And the view of Canadians, we have a lot of respect for President Trump. He's elected, he's the president, he has an agenda, we want to work with him. And one of the challenges is he has a growth agenda, reducing taxes, deregulating, reducing the size of government, and the tariffs are a direct contradiction to his growth agenda. It doesn't work. And so we want to work with the Americans and our friends and allies to make the right choices, and hopefully that'll happen in the next few months.
As you probably know, Canadians are canceling a lot of their travel plans to the United States. They're ditching American-made products, and actually, and this was pretty shocking to me, booing the American national anthem at various sporting events, especially hockey games. Are we looking at a permanent change in the relationship, the long-standing, wonderful relationship between the United States and Canada?
Canadians we are very lucky, American and Canadians, to be born in this neighborhood of the world. Our American neighbors are friends, they're allies, and we appreciate them, and we differentiate between political leaders and who are our neighbors. And one of our challenges as we move ahead, both on the American side and our side, is to differentiate between the leaders and the people for whom there is just a fantastic relationship, and that will continue. So Canadians do, by the way, they did feel, I think, hurt on these certain comments that were made, and they felt destabilized by these comments, and that's why they're reacting the way they do. But at the end of the day, Is there a better place in the world to live, actually, than in Canada, between the United States and Canada? I don't think so, Wolf. That's the way we see it.
Yeah, it was so awful. You heard when they were booing the American national anthem. For someone who grew up on the border with Canada and Buffalo, I couldn't believe something like that could actually happen.
And that is not right. And you know, our political leaders are denounced that. And by the way, before the game starts, they try to tell the crowd, please be respectful of the anthem of the other country, as we always should be, no matter who it is. And these things happen, and they're a reaction to what's happening, and that's not an excuse, Wolf. It just should not happen.
I hope it doesn't happen, because I know that in Buffalo, when the Buffalo Sabres play hockey, they always play not just the U.S. national anthem,
Yep.
but they also play "Oh Canada."
Yes.
And it's always very respectful. So many of the players, of course, hockey players, are from Canada, and it's the right thing to do.
And they're Canadians, and we like to go to Buffalo and win.
We like to win in Buffalo as well. Jean Charest, thanks so much for coming in, the former Premier of Quebec. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Wolf.